Brian Carroll here. I wanted to talk about a conversation that I had with Dave Tate in about June of this year. I was going through a time to where I was in a big transition. My business was growing. We just bought a new house. We were transitioning into that house but weren't quite moved in yet. And I had already kind of decided, a month and a half before or so, that I needed a break from powerlifting, competing. Not a long-term break, more of a short-term break to get my priorities back in order. I felt like for the last 10 years that had been my major focus. Slowly I had started understanding that I needed to branch out. I needed to have some other stuff I was interested in. I needed to focus on my retirement, my career, betterment of my family's livelihood. Just things that are more important than powerlifting, really, believe it or not. And so I had a conversation with him for about an hour, and I told him how I was feeling. I told him I was feeling beat up physically from the XPC still. I told him about how I felt about neglecting things and how I needed to adjust some of my priorities. And he had something very awesome to say to me, and it made so much sense. What he said is, you're at the point now where you shouldn't be competing so much. And I'd already known that, but his reasoning was awesome. And what he said was, you need to look at yourself like a pro football player's, what a pro football player does, and how his wife has to look at it too. He said that you need to pretty much look at it to where 4 months out of the year, you are locked in, you're training for a meet, you're grumpy, you're focused, etc., things go to the wayside, but the wife, girlfriend, significant other needs to have an out. They need to know that, okay, well, 8 months out of the year, it's not going to be like this. Because believe it or not, your wife may be totally dedicated to you, love powerlifting, love going to the meet, love handling you, which my wife does, but that still wears on her year after year after year. So what he told me was, you need to look at it and basically lay it out to her that 8 months out of the year, we're going to do the stuff you want to do. We're going to travel. We're going to do the things that we neglect during the 4 months. And then the 4 months are going to be dedicated to dialing in for the meet, etc., etc. And that made so much sense to me, because I'd always thought, oh, Rhea loves powerlifting. She loves going. She loves taking the trip. But then I think back how much of an a-hole I am, how selfish I am at that time, how pissed off I am if training doesn't go well that day, or if I'm hurting, or if I'm having a bad day, or etc., etc. It all plays off of training for a meet, because that's my total focus. And Dave said to me, he goes, because we've spent some time together over the years, whether it be at Elite FTS or out to dinner at meets, and Dave's obviously a smart guy and picks up on things. He said, your wife's never told me that she's, grown tired of going to the meets, but trust me, it happens. They don't like this powerlifting stuff as much as you do. Even though they support you, it still wears on them. So I said, man, that's good stuff. The 4th month locked in, the 8th month's more down, but don't get it twisted. You're still training hard for those 8 months. You're still working on weak points. You're still busting ass in the gym. You're still planning for those 4 months where you're going to be training for that meet. But at the same time, other things are still going to take priority. And, it just gives you more of a balance of your lifestyle. And so not everyone's going to get this. It took a while for me to click. And I wrote in my log before that powerlifting was my only priority for years. I took a job that would just give me any kind of schedule for a long time. I had no savings. I had no career. All I had was a condo that pretty much if certain things didn't happen in my life the way they did, I'd have been satisfied living in a tiny little condo my whole life. For those of you that don't know, I got burglarized in 2010, and I had everything stolen from me. Insurance ended up recouping some of that stuff for me, but I had $150 to my name. Rhea's real estate hadn't taken off yet. My business was slow. I had $150 to my name, and I realized that it shouldn't be like this. I can do better. I can prioritize my time even better. And that was the kind of start of the way I changed my thinking. and that was late in 2010. And fast forward a year and a half later, Dave and I had this talk, and it totally makes sense. You got to have a balance in the things you do. Well, going back to Rhea, after Dave and I had this talk, I went to her and I said, you get sick of traveling to these meets, don't you? You get sick of my attitude. You get sick of me crying and bitching about stuff, or hurting, or saying training didn't go good, or throwing fits when we got to do family stuff, when I'm supposed to be training later that day, etc., etc. She goes, yeah, I do. And it's kind of a relief that you've decided on your own that you want to take a break for a little while and focus on some other things, and that way we can travel and we can spend time together. And I totally get what Dave's saying. This is Rhea still talking, and that it totally makes sense. And he's right. It does wear on me, and I'm sure a lot of other wives, girlfriends feel the same way. They just don't speak up, and I guess it can become passive aggressive, where they just snap and leave, or say they're not going to powerlift anymore or whatever. But I've really learned to take in consideration balance of everything, and I never quite understood when people had families and they couldn't, they had to cut out meals, or they had to miss training, or they had to take the kids somewhere. But I totally get that now. And to the people that don't have those responsibilities, enjoy it. Enjoy it while you can. But at the same time, don't think that your selfishness or your total involvement, or your total 100%, your mind being consumed into something all the time wears on the people around you. You need to realize this and take other people's feelings and thoughts into consideration. And thankfully, I realized this on my own with the help of some other people and Dave to make some changes and to realize that it can't be 12 months a year of all powerlifting. It has to be 4 months or so, getting ready for a meet. Another 8 has to be divided up with other priorities. And this is just my opinion. I've come to it. You can like it or hate it, but some of you won't agree with this. And Dave said the same thing. Some of you won't get it yet. You will eventually, but at this time, it may not apply to you, or you don't think it applies to you. But some of you out there really will get it and will realize that powerlifting isn't the most important thing out there. You're not going to make $1 million a year off of it. You're not going to get these huge endorsements. It's an awesome sport. I've gotten a lot from it. I've been able to give back to it. But at the same time, you got to have a balance. And at the end of the day, family and friends and having a future ahead of you aside from powerlifting is very important. And that's something that I'm looking forward to. And don't think that I'm taking powerlifting, it's taking a back seat to everything. But I think that I'll be a better lifter for having more balance. So shoot me any questions or comments you have on this video. This is straight shooting from the heart. Something that's been on my mind for a little while, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.